What's up, guys? So, a plethora of fights are getting announced right now. John Jones fighting Thiago Santos, Amanda Nunes fighting Holly Holm. But we also have Tyron Woodley versus Robbie Lawler 2, the rematch. Now, that fight is especially interesting because although the other fights are interesting, but they are logical. I mean, people expected those fights to happen, but this one came out of left field. A lot of people wanted to see the Ben Askren fight with Robbie Lawler again, and even Dana White wanted that fight too, but he came on to the UFC Unfiltered podcast and said that Ben Askren versus Jorge Masvidal is actually a fight that he's trying to work out right now. And that leaves Woodley to go and fight Lawler again. Now, this doesn't do too much for Woodley, but Woodley's not in the best place because he's probably not going to get a title shot. So maybe he's just going to take any matchup they give him because he wants that taste of his loss from Kamaru Usman out of his mouth. And Robbie Lawler is a training partner of Usman, so maybe there's something tying that together for Tyron Woodley to take this fight. But one thing you have to notice is Lawler, even coming off the Ben Askren fight and losing officially, he potentially has a better matchup, right? He's fighting the number one contender, the guy who just was the champion. Coming off that loss to Ben Askren, even though it was a very controversial fight, he probably comes out of that fight better than Ben Askren. Ben Askren taking on Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal is not as high in the rankings as Tyron Woodley is, right? Now, the fact that Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley are very good friends and they would never fight each other kind of shoots Ben Askren in the foot in that case, because if they weren't friends, he potentially has that fight with Woodley instead of Robbie Lawler. So, great opportunity for Robbie Lawler. If he wins this fight, you would have to say maybe a title shot, even if Ben Askren beats Jorge Masvidal. The fact that he's going up and he's beating the former champion. Usually when you go and beat the former champion in their next fight after losing the belt, that usually shoots up that contender to a title shot. And the fact that Robbie Lawler gets to have the opportunity to avenge his loss from losing the belt, this is a complete win-win situation for Robbie Lawler, right? Almost a lose kind of win situation for Tyron Woodley. And Ben Askren is left in limbo now. Right, he doesn't have too many options anymore. He doesn't want to take the Darren Till fight. He's coming off a loss. He's calling out Jorge Masvidal, but Masvidal is saying he's not looking back at fighters. He wants to just move forward. Kamaru Usman and Covington are most likely going to fight each other, and everybody else is below Ben Askren. So he's left out from everybody now. He doesn't really have that logical matchup. I mean, he came in the UFC blazing hot, calling out everybody in the division to not having almost no one to fight. That's kind of crazy. And another fighter that gets left out is Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's been looking at guys like Tyron Woodley and RDA. He could potentially have that fight with RDA if he's able to beat Kevin Lee, or whoever wins that fight, Ponzinibbio can go up and fight that guy. So there's a lot of fights coming together. There's a lot of opportunities in this division, and you have to admit, with all of this craziness going on, the welterweight division has never been better. From the champion to the number one contender, all the great fighters at the top ranks all fighting each other now. The division has never been better. And how I see this Tyron Woodley and Robbie Lawler fight going is maybe a little bit different from last time. I think Robbie Lawler is especially going to learn his mistakes from the last one. Woodley hasn't really changed too much. Lawler in his recent fights has been a lot more pressuring, a lot more aggressive in his fights like he used to be. And in his fight with Woodley, he was backing up constantly. He allowed Woodley to push him back. And when you allow Woodley to push you back and be the aggressor, he's a very hard guy to deal with. I have a feeling we're going to see the same kind of Lawler that fought Ben Askren, that fought Donald Cerrone, you know, the one that comes forward and just looking to take your head off with technical brawling skills. He's going to look for the left hand, he's going to be in the southpaw stance, whereas Woodley's going to be in the orthodox, so the power hands of each other are going to be open on each other. The takedowns of Woodley, I don't think are going to be much of a factor other than maybe faking for the right hand. I don't see Lawler getting taken down in the fight at all. So pretty much what I'm seeing is it's a very competitive fight. It's a lot more competitive than the last one, and it can go either way. I can see Lawler not getting tricked by the feints of Woodley when he's coming in for that right overhand, and usually how he likes to evade right overhands is he likes to duck and put his guard up, right? It's a very boxing-oriented defense, but he looks to always counter back. And he has the same reach as Woodley, but he's a little bit taller. So he might be able to just reach in a little bit more for his counter right hook, which he loves to go for, and throw off Woodley, probably expecting a left hand. It's a tough fight to call. It's really tough to say who would win this fight because they both will have their moments. They both have their opportunities. They can knock each other out with any blow. But I'm going to go with Tyron Woodley. I think he has better head movement. I think he's really good at slipping on the outside of left straights and coming with his own right hook, like he did against Damian Maia. He's done to other fighters as well. He just fought another southpaw in Darren Till, who's taller and bigger than Robbie Lawler is. And when Lawler throws that left straight, he moves in straight, but he instantly tries to pull back. And is Woodley fast enough to get off the center line and connect with the right hook or the right overhand before Lawler gets away? and I think he is. I think he's faster than Lawler. He has leg kicks as well. He has a wrestling threat. But it should be an amazing fight with everybody on the edge of their seats the entire time. Because even though Woodley can put on some lackluster performances, lackluster fights, Lawler doesn't allow you to do that. Lawler puts the fight to you, and he's going to force Woodley to exchange with him, which makes for an exciting fight. So I can't wait for this one. People are going to ask, what are my thoughts on Ben Askren if he fights Jorge Masvidal and who would win? I actually do favor Ben Askren to win that fight. I think his wrestling is just a little bit too strong, and I think he's going to be able to move in on the boxing of Masvidal and take it to the ground and just wear him out, very similar to what Damian Maia was able to do, but just taking down Masvidal instead of pulling guard and stuff. And if Maia can get a hold of you, right, if Maia can get in on the boxing of Masvidal and clinch up, I believe Ben Askren could do the same. So I do expect Ben Askren to win that fight if it happens. The only thing is, Masvidal trains with some of the best wrestlers around. I mean, he has some wicked wrestlers in his training camp, from Romero to Covington. Very different styles all around. And it could really help him game plan for a guy like Ben Askren, who is a bit easier to game plan for than other fighters. But again, he did also lose to Maia, which was a controversial fight itself. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I don't know if it's going to be super exciting, but the outcome is going to be very unexpected, I believe. So crazy fight announcements, and leave a comment below what you guys think about all these fights getting announced, from Jones to Nunes to this fight, even Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes. I mean, there's some crazy fights getting announced, and I'll see you guys in the next one.